Hi everyone, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com. I hope you have prepared yourself something warm and wonderful to drink. I have a cup of green chai tea in my favorite teacup that I am going to enjoy with you while we talk about pricing one-of-a-kind bags. And so by one of a kind, I mean these are pieces which would be difficult to duplicate exactly. That's not to say that you couldn't create a likeness, which we all have done. We have created similar but unique happy-go-lucky backpacks. So we are going to use the happy-go-lucky backpack as our example today for this pricing model that I am going to share with you. If you are not familiar with the design, this is the happy-go-lucky backpack. It has backpack straps that are adjustable and padded, as well as a fixed messenger strap. It's crafted from 88 4-inch squares, and that's what gives it its one-of-a-kind nature. And so it would be extremely difficult, probably not impossible, but very challenging for anyone to duplicate this backpack exactly like it is here. And that's simply because of the patchwork process and that a lot of these prints are discontinued, and all of them I pulled from my personal fabric stash. So those things all together are what make this a one-of-a-kind piece. So if you like the look and you would like to duplicate or make yourself a happy-go-lucky backpack, I have a PDF which you can purchase for a nominal fee, as well as 3 instructional videos that go over all of the pattern prep, and then we sew the exterior and then the interior. I will link to the project specification sheet, which you can purchase in my Etsy pattern shop and download instantly to your device, as well as the playlist for the happy-go-lucky backpack. So all of that is found down in the show notes, as well as on Sewspire.com. I have given the website a fresh new look, and I have tried to simplify that landing page so that you can get all the pertinent information you need for our monthly sew-togethers. So hop on over to Sewspire.com after this video and check that out. Lots of good information right there at your fingertips on the home page. All right, so now that you have an overview of the bag that we're going to be pricing out, I would like to share my screen. I am using a template that was created by one of our Sewspire community page members. That community page is a private Facebook group. Everybody's welcome to join, but you will need to agree to the community rules, and you'll find the link to that site down in the notes as well. And that's where you can get your own copy of this spreadsheet so that you can price out your projects with ease. So, looking at this lovely spreadsheet, I estimate that it took me approximately 5 hours to actually prep and sew this project. So my hourly rate is $20 an hour. Your hourly rate may differ. It could be less, it could be more. That's entirely up to you to determine what your hourly rate is. And so right off the top, I have $100 in labor costs associated with this project. Then it's difficult really to assign a value to the 4-inch squares. We used 88 of them in total. I say it's difficult because a lot of these pieces I cannot get back. Once they're gone because they're out of print. And they may have featured like unique elements of that particular larger cut of fabric. An example of that is the fox. I don't know for a fact that the fox is out of print, but that's just an example of how I took that fox from that fabric and showcased it. You could do the same thing with flowers, or let's see if there's anything interesting happening on the back. Most of those are smaller scale prints, so they're not good examples of that. But the fox is definitely a good example of how one element of that design, if it's an out of print fabric, would make it even more valuable. So what I did is just assign a value of 25 cents each per square, and I multiplied that by 88, so I figure I have about $22 in squares. And then this project requires some cut yardage as well, so I valued that at $12 a yard, and there are 2 yards, so that's $24 in material. And then I used 1 yard of the soft and stable, and that cost me $6, purchased wholesale. And there was a zipper involved in this, and I estimated that to cost $2. Your pricing again is going to vary depending upon if you purchase wholesale, if the materials were even given to you perhaps. So if you download the spreadsheet, can change your costs. I'm just going based upon what the materials cost me. So those initial material costs are $54. Then I have some additional hardware costs. There weren't enough lines for me to add the zipper down in the hardware, so that's why I put it up in the material costs. So we had 3 triangle rings, which cost $3, 4 swivel fobs, which were $4, 5 rivets, which cost 40 cents in total, 2 magnetic snaps, which are $2, and then 3 of the tri-glides for the straps. That's what makes them adjustable, and those cost $2.25. And then 2 O-rings, which cost $3 in total. So the hardware was $14.65. If you added in that zipper, it would have been $16.65. And then the $54 there at the top would have been $52. But all of that, we're just looking to get one number, and that number includes the cost of the materials and the labor. So that total is $168.65. That's absolutely the bare minimum that you should value this bag at. All right, so let's say that we want to account for the fact that the material is out of print, or that it may have taken special skills to piece these patchwork panels together, right? Like, I think if any of you are new to quilting and this was your first patchwork project, you realize that it does take some skills to maintain that seam allowance and line up those corners nice. So those are factors to consider in this, what I'm calling a surcharge, an additional charge on top of the labor that we have already added into this. There's also, as we mentioned in the beginning, this idea that this is a one-of-a-kind piece and that it may not be possible to recreate it. So if someone wanted this backpack with that fussy cut fox, this is the only one exactly like that. So a lot of that is going to depend upon the buyer, right? Which sometimes can make these one-of-a-kind pieces a little harder to sell because you're waiting for the person who falls in love with the bag or the look. So that is what you're going to need to take into account when you consider the surcharge. And so for me, I would charge a $60 surcharge, and that is because I estimate it took me about 3 hours to prepare the 4-inch squares and piece them together. Whereas if I were just cutting out this bag from cut yardage, and I did not have to give any thought to if two were close together, if my seam allowance was maintained and such, I could probably make this bag in 2 hours. Now, that's because I'm very familiar with the pattern and I have my workspace all situated that I could just cut, sew. I'm super familiar with the technique as well. So 2 hours is probably pretty fast for most people to sew this bag, but I do think if I was completely uninterrupted and working with cut yardage that I can make it in 2 hours. So I'm going to charge a surcharge for that. Now, I already added that 3 hours into the time to construct the bag, but that 3 hours is going to be charged at this additional higher rate. And so I think the easiest way to look at that is I'm basically doubling my labor. So for 3 of those 5 hours, I'm charging $40 an hour for the actual patchwork process of this, which is what I think makes it unique. And then for the remaining 2 hours, I am charging my traditional rate of $20 an hour. So just double whatever your rate is per hour if you are unsure of what the surcharge is. So identify the amount of time that was true specialty work on this project, which would be cutting out the squares and piecing those panels, and then double your labor rate for that particular part to get your surcharge. Now, if you are going to be selling your bag on Etsy or online, I have found it's easiest to just add 15% to your selling price, and that will cover your costs for the credit card processing, the Etsy fees, and shipping a reasonable distance, say like priority mail in the United States. That does not cover international shipping. You would need to specifically charge extra for international shipping. But if you just would like to offer free shipping on your product and cover your Etsy seller fees, 15% is a good number. So I added the $168.65, which are my base production costs, plus my $60 surcharge, and that got me to $229. So if I were selling this bag face to face to somebody, say at a craft fair, or I was making it for my neighbor, their cost would be $229 if they paid me cash. I still have to account for credit card fees if they're going to pay me with a credit card. So you may just want to add the 15% fee regardless. And that 15% on the $229 is $34.35. So that would make my Etsy buy it now price $263, which I do feel is a fair price for a beautiful, one-of-a-kind, versatile backpack. And of course, that decision is going to be completely left up to your buyer. But I do feel that if you price your products fairly, like you can justify the price, right? It was not just an arbitrary number that you pulled out of the sky. You could have a conversation about how you price the product, that if you stand by your fair pricing and leave it in your shop long enough, a buyer will come along. All that being said, it is still really important that you capture the true beauty and the features of the bag with your photography. And one day I'd love to create a video just about product photography. I absolutely love product photography. I love photography in general, but I especially love product photography. And in the beginning, when I started sewing and making bags that I could even sell, I found it really difficult to let them go because we put so much of ourselves into the bag when we're making it. And these one-of-a-kind pieces, we are especially pouring our heart and love into. So they are even harder, I think, or at least for me, to let go of. And so the way that I overcame that was by taking beautiful photos of my bags and keeping the photos so that I could let the bag go to a new home and be used and loved by someone else. So if you struggle with letting your creations go, photography might be the answer for you. And if that is something that you're interested in learning how to do better, let me know in the comments, and I can work out a time for us to explore product photography. So that's how I would price and sell my happy-go-lucky bag. I'd love to know if you think that price is spot on, if you think it's too high, or maybe you think it's too low, especially if you've actually made one of these bags. So please also drop in the comments what you would charge for the happy-go-lucky bag that you made. And that's the price that you could actually sell it for, not saying if someone would buy it, just saying if you got paid that, you would be satisfied putting it in a box and sending it off to its new owner. Okay, so give me the price for the happy-go-lucky bag that you would spend your precious life and time making it, and then be more than happy to put it in the box and ship it off. So if anyone did want to pay me the $263 for this beautiful custom happy-go-lucky bag, I would indeed put it in a bag and ship it off. Now, all that being said, I am perhaps considering putting this in my Etsy shop at that price and just seeing what happens. Let me know if you think that would be fun. And if you do, I will take some gorgeous pictures of this bag and then put it in the Etsy pattern shop and just see what happens, because I have the original prototype which I made for myself and have been using, but I have never actually used the one that we made together. So let me give you another look at what that looks like. It's got those sweet animals on the inside. So maybe I will do that. I'll be curious to see what you think, if I should list it, and we should see if it sells. I hope you guys can see Tim. He's here to say hi to everybody. He's growing up big. So that concludes our January sew together here at Sewspire. We still have 10 more left in 2022. In February, we are going to be making my lifestyle tote bag. This bag comes together like none other. We've never used this construction process before. In fact, I don't even really have a good name for it yet, except maybe the panel method. I'm still deciding what I am going to call this, but by the end of February, I will have a name for the method that we're using. The PDF for that project is available now. I will link to the PDF down in the notes if you'd like to get that PDF and review it and start gathering your supplies in advance of next Friday when we are going to prep our materials for that project. You have the ability to do that. If you are a Sewspire patron, you have access to that PDF as part of your Patreon benefits. So make sure you check the Patreon page and get your copy there. If you are not yet a Sewspire patron, I'd love for you to check out the page and get more information about the benefits of being a Sewspire patron. We are going to be having a live sew together in February. I'm calling those selfish sew togethers. There's still time for you to join the Patreon page, vote in that poll, and then show up and sew live with your sewing sisters. Sewing brothers are welcome too. We just don't have any yet, so I don't mean to exclude anyone. There just aren't any in the group, but I'm sure you'd be warmly welcomed, as will anyone else who decides to join us. So I want to make sure to mention that to you. And then I'd like to invite anyone who's interested in having more structure around your creative time and setting some specific creative goals for yourself to join us on Tuesday, February 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern in the Sewspire Zoom room for our Plan to Be Creative meeting. This is a small group of creative hearts that come together once a month to set 3 goals for the month ahead. And then we also report back how we did with the 3 goals we set the month prior. So there is a private Facebook group for that experience as well. If you'd like to join the group and kind of check out who's in it and what kind of goals we've been setting, you'll find that link down below as well as on sewspire.com. So everybody's welcome to participate in that free Sewspire experience, but you should probably want to set creative goals if you join us for that. And then the last thing that I want to remind you about is once a month on the second Tuesday of the month at 12:30 Eastern, I go live in the private Sewspire community group on Facebook for what I'm calling Sewspire Studio Chats. Last month we made the bow tie bag that you see on my mannequin back there. And I think in February we're going to be sewing something called a stout messenger bag. So I'm just waiting to get 100 likes on that Instagram or Facebook post, and then we will make that decision based upon the number of likes. I posted some additional photos of the stout messenger on the Sewspire community page in the Facebook group there, if you'd like to check that out and see if that's something you're interested in. I think the live events are the most fun because that's where you actually see the project come together with 0 edits. So you have a couple of opportunities to sew live with us in February. And again, all that information can be found right on the Sewspire homepage now for you. And that should be your first source when you're wondering what's happening at Sewspire. So I want to thank you all again for making this first Sew Together a success. And I'm excited to spend some more time with you in February making the lifestyle tote. So until then, as always, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. I hope everybody has an awesome weekend. Thank you for joining me.